I'm 31 years old, and I never thought I'd be the type of person to pour my heart out on Reddit. But here I am, sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot, hands shaking as I type this out on my phone, because I genuinely need to know if I'm losing my mind or if what I'm experiencing is as insane as it seems. My husband Mark is 32. We've been married for 6 years, together for 9. He's always been a good man, the kind who remembers to text me when he's running late, who still opens car doors, who makes me coffee exactly the way I like it every single morning. Or at least, he used to be that man. I'm not entirely sure who he is anymore. 3 years ago, everything changed. That's when Sarah came into our lives. Mark started working with Sarah at his tech company 3 years ago. She was hired as a project manager on his team, and from day one, he came home talking about how brilliant she was, how organized, how she had these innovative ideas that were really shaking things up at the office. I was happy for him. Genuinely happy. Mark had been feeling stagnant in his career, and having an energizing colleague seemed like exactly what he needed. So when he suggested I meet her, I jumped at the chance. I wanted to be the cool wife, the secure wife, the wife who could be friends with her husband's female coworkers because I'm not some jealous stereotype. I invited Sarah to our summer barbecue. I went out of my way to make her feel welcome, introducing her to our friends, making sure she had a drink, asking about her background and interests. That's when I got my first taste of who Sarah really was. The comments started immediately, but they were so subtle, so carefully wrapped in a smile and a laugh, that calling them out would have made me look paranoid. When someone asked what I did for work and I mentioned I was a yoga instructor who ran my own studio, Sarah's eyebrows lifted just slightly. "Oh," she said, in that particular tone that managed to be both bright and condescending. "You're just a yoga instructor? How peaceful. I mean, it must be nice to have something so low stress. Mark's always talking about how demanding his job is. It's good that at least one of you can just relax all day. Just relax. All day. I've built my yoga studio from nothing. I wake up at 5 in the morning to teach my first class. I manage 6 instructors, handle all the business operations, deal with difficult clients, maintain our social media presence, and somehow still find time to meal prep and keep our house running. But sure, I just relax all day." My friend Jessica caught my expression and quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. Sarah had planted her flag, established her territory. And she was just getting started. Later that evening, I'd spent 2 hours preparing my grandmother's famous ribs recipe. People were raving about them. Sarah took one bite, made a little face, and said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "I guess not everyone can master basic seasoning. Don't worry, Amy, cooking isn't for everyone. That's what takeout is for, right?" Mark laughed. Actually laughed. When I shot him a look, he shrugged like I was overreacting. That night, after everyone had left and we were cleaning up, I tried to talk to him about it. "Did Sarah seem a little off to you?" I asked, carefully loading plates into the dishwasher. "Off? No, I thought she was great. Everyone loved her. She made some pretty rude comments to me." He looked genuinely confused. "When? I didn't hear anything rude. She was joking around, babe. That's just Sarah's sense of humor. She's like that with everyone at work. You're being a little sensitive." And there it was. The first time he said those words that would become his default response to everything. "You're being too sensitive. You're overreacting. That's just how Sarah is. She doesn't mean anything by it." I dropped it that night. I told myself maybe I was being sensitive. Maybe I was reading into things. Maybe this was just an awkward first meeting and things would get better. Things did not get better. Things got so much worse. The next few months, Sarah became a constant presence in our lives. Not physically in our home, but in every conversation, every plan, every moment. Mark's phone would buzz at all hours. "Just Sarah," he'd say, barely looking up. Their text conversations were endless streams about work projects, office gossip, random observations about their day. When we'd sit down for dinner, his phone would be face up on the table, lighting up every few minutes with her name. "Can you put your phone away during dinner?" I finally asked one evening, About 6 months into this new dynamic. It's just work stuff, he said, but he pocketed the phone. It lasted maybe 10 minutes before he pulled it out again to respond to something Sarah had sent. He didn't even seem to realize he was doing it. The office inside jokes started. He'd come home and tell me about something that happened at work, then laugh at the memory, and when I'd ask what was funny, he'd say, "Oh, it's just this thing, Sarah, and you kind of had to be there." I was losing my husband to 1,000 tiny moments I wasn't part of. Death by 1,000 cuts, except the cuts were inside jokes and text messages and shared experiences that excluded me from my own marriage. Then came the real turning point. Our 5th anniversary was approaching. I'd been planning for weeks. I'd made reservations at the restaurant where Mark proposed to me, the one we went to every year on our anniversary without fail. It was our tradition. 2 weeks before our anniversary, Mark came home looking uncomfortable. "So, Sarah scheduled this mandatory team dinner," he started. My stomach dropped before he even finished the sentence. "It's on the 15th, he continued. "She didn't realize that was our anniversary when she scheduled it. But it's with the senior VP, and apparently it's really important for the team's visibility, and I don't think I can get out of it." The 15th. Our anniversary. The reservation I'd made months ago. The tradition we'd maintained for 5 years straight. "Can't Sarah reschedule it?" I asked, my voice carefully controlled. "Surely she can move it by 1 day?" He looked pained. "She already checked with everyone's schedules. The VP is only available that one evening. And she put a lot of work into organizing this. I can't ask her to change it." He couldn't ask her to change it. But he could cancel our anniversary dinner. "Mark, this is our 5th anniversary. I know, babe, and I'm sorry. We can celebrate the next night. Or the weekend. It's just dinner. The day doesn't really matter, right? It's about us, not the calendar date." But it wasn't just dinner. And the day did matter. Because traditions matter. Because your wife should matter more than your coworker's carefully orchestrated team dinner that she absolutely could have scheduled for any other night. I went to that restaurant alone on our anniversary. I sat at our table, ate our traditional meal, and cried into my wine while Mark sent me periodic texts from his team dinner. The texts were full of apologies and promises that he'd make it up to me, but they were sent between what I could only imagine were conversations with Sarah, laughter with Sarah, inside jokes with Sarah. When he came home that night, he tried to make it up to me. He'd brought home a slice of cake that Sarah had ordered for the table, so you could at least have some dessert from the evening. He genuinely thought this was a sweet gesture. He couldn't understand why I stared at that cake like it was a bomb. That's when I realized Sarah knew exactly what she was doing. She knew it was our anniversary. She knew it, and she scheduled that dinner anyway, and she'd done it in a way that made it impossible for Mark to say no, and she'd even sent home cake like some kind of consolation prize for the wife she'd just humiliated. But when I tried to explain this to Mark, he looked at me like I was speaking another language. Why would Sarah care about our anniversary? She was just doing her job. "You're reading way too much into this." I started to wonder if I was. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was being the crazy jealous wife who couldn't handle her husband having a close female colleague. I tried to talk myself down from the ledge of my suspicions. And then Sarah threw away the mug. I'd given Mark a custom mug for our anniversary the year before. It had a photo from our wedding, the one where we're both laughing so hard we're almost crying, our faces pressed together, pure joy captured in a single moment. He kept it on his desk at work. He drank his coffee from it every single morning. One day I stopped by his office to drop off his forgotten laptop charger. The mug was gone. "Where's your mug?" I asked. Mark looked uncomfortable. "Oh. Sarah accidentally knocked it over last week. It broke." Something in his tone told me there was more to the story. "Accidentally?" He shifted in his seat. "Yeah, I mean, she felt really bad about it. She even made this joke about how it didn't really fit the office aesthetic anyway, so maybe it was for the best. She's always saying my desk needs a more professional look." I stood there in his office, feeling like I'd been physically slapped. She broke our wedding mug and made a joke about the aesthetic. And my husband was repeating that joke to me like it was funny. Like it was charming. Like the erasure of our marriage from his workspace was just good interior design. Mark, that was our wedding photo. I know, babe, but it's just a mug. We have a million photos at home. Just a mug. Just our anniversary. Just jokes. Just Sarah being Sarah. The incidents piled up like evidence in a case I couldn't get anyone else to see. Sarah convinced Mark to turn down a promotion that would have moved him to a different team. It wouldn't have increased his salary, but it would have given him a better title and valuable leadership experience. When he told me about declining it, he said it so casually, like it was obvious. I talked to Sarah about it, and she made some really good points about how I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility yet. Plus, it would mean leaving the team, and we work so well together. It doesn't make sense to disrupt that. We work so well together. Not I work well with my team. Not I work well at my current level. We, him and Sarah, working together was more important than his career advancement. I tried to push back. But Mark, this is a leadership opportunity. Isn't that what you've been working toward? He waved it off. There'll be other opportunities. Sarah thinks I should wait for something that's a better fit. Sarah thinks. Sarah thinks. Sarah thinks. My husband's career decisions were being made by a woman who wasn't his wife, wasn't his boss, and who very clearly had a vested interest in keeping him exactly where he was, on her team, under her influence. The social media posts were another level entirely. Sarah had started an Instagram account that was supposedly about their work adventures and office life. But the hashtags told a different story. Work power couple. Work spouse. Office marriage. Dream team. Photos of them at their desks, at team lunches, at happy hours, at conferences. In half the photos, she was touching him, a hand on his shoulder, leaning in close, their heads bent together over a laptop. When I mentioned it to Mark, he shrugged. It's just social media. She's really into documenting team culture. The company loves it, actually. Great for our employer brand. I started checking her Instagram obsessively, hating myself for it but unable to stop. Every post was a little knife, a little reminder that this woman spent more waking hours with my husband than I did, that she knew his schedule better than I did, that she was building this narrative of them as partners, as a unit, as something that didn't include me. The comments on her posts were even worse. Coworkers would write things like, "You two run that office, and power couple, and Sarah, you take such good care of him." She'd reply with heart emojis, "And someone has to keep him in line. Someone has to. Not his wife. Sarah." She even changed his coffee order. Mark had always been a simple coffee drinker, black with 1 sugar. Suddenly he was coming home talking about his new oat milk courte-do with cinnamon that Sarah had introduced him to. She said my old order was so basic. She's training me to have better taste. Training him. Like he was a dog. Like he was a project. Like his preferences, the things that made him who he was, needed to be corrected by her superior judgment. And the thing that made it all so much worse, so much more maddening, was that Mark saw none of it. He was genuinely, completely oblivious. When I'd point out how inappropriate something was, he'd look confused, like I was speaking a foreign language. When I'd express discomfort with how much time he spent with Sarah, he'd accuse me of being insecure. "Why are you so threatened by her?" he asked after I'd mentioned the Instagram posts for the 3rd time. "She's just a coworker. A friend. Why can't you be happy that I have someone I work well with?" How could I explain that I wasn't threatened by a coworker or a friend? I was threatened by someone who was systematically replacing me in every aspect of my husband's life while pretending to be harmless. I was threatened by someone who my husband trusted more than me, listened to more than me, laughed with more than me. Last month, we finally bought a house. We'd been saving for years, looking at properties every weekend, dreaming about where we'd build our life together. When we finally found the perfect place, a beautiful craftsman with a porch and a backyard and enough space for the family we'd been planning, I was over the moon. Mark told Sarah about it, of course. He told Sarah everything. And Sarah, because she apparently has an opinion about every aspect of Mark's life, declared our new home charming, in a starter home kind of way. A starter home. Our dream house. The place we'd poured our savings into. The home where we were planning to raise children. Reduced to a stepping stone in Sarah's estimation, something to be outgrown, something not quite good enough. And Mark repeated this to me, while laughing. He came home, we were standing in our new kitchen, boxes still unpacked around us, and he said, Sarah saw the photos and said it's charming, in a starter home kind of way. Isn't that funny? I stared at him. Why is that funny? I don't know, just the way she said it. She has such a unique perspective on things. A unique perspective. That was one way to describe constant criticism and judgment disguised as observations. I was drowning. I was losing my marriage to someone who had never even pretended to respect it, and my husband was helping her do it. Every day, I felt myself becoming smaller, my voice becoming quieter, my confidence eroding under the weight of being told I was overreacting, being too sensitive, reading into things. So I suggested marriage counseling. It felt like a last resort, but I didn't know what else to do. We needed someone neutral, someone professional, someone who could help Mark see what was happening. He looked at me like I'd suggested we join a cult. Marriage counseling? Why? We're fine. We're not fine, Mark. I'm not fine. I feel like I'm competing with Sarah for your attention, your time, your respect. And I'm losing. That's ridiculous. Sarah is my coworker. You're my wife. There's no competition. Then why does she know your schedule better than I do? Why does she have more influence over your career decisions than I do? Why do you spend more time texting her than talking to me? He sighed like I was being difficult. Because I work with her 40 hours a week. That's what coworkers do. They communicate. They collaborate. I don't understand why you're making this into something it's not. But then, of course, he went and talked to Sarah about it. Because Mark tells Sarah everything, including the private struggles in our marriage. And Sarah, generous soul that she is, has apparently been telling people at their office that Mark and I are going through a rough patch, and that she's just being a good friend by giving him someone to talk to. We weren't going through a rough patch before Sarah decided we were. We were fine. We were happy. We had normal marriage ups and downs, but we were solid. And now Sarah was narrating our marriage to their co-workers, positioning herself as Mark's support system, the person he turns to when things are hard. She was creating the problem and offering herself as the solution. I found out about her office narrative from Emma, another co-worker's wife I'd become friendly with at company events. She pulled me aside at a holiday party and asked, gently, if everything was okay. Mark seems really stressed lately, she said. My husband mentioned that Sarah has been worried about him. About your marriage. The rage that flooded through me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Sarah was worried about my marriage. Sarah, who had systematically undermined, disrespected, and inserted herself into every corner of my relationship, was now publicly positioning herself as the concerned friend watching a troubled marriage crumble. Last week W.A.'s Mark's birthday. I'd been planning something special, just the two of us. But Sarah had supposedly called in sick that day, so I thought maybe, just maybe, I could actually have my husband to myself on his birthday. I decided to surprise him at the office with lunch. His favorite sandwiches from the deli near our house, the ones he always orders. A small thing, but I wanted to do something nice, something that reminded him that I know him, that I pay attention, that I care. When I walked into his office, there was Sarah, miraculously recovered from her illness. And on his desk was a cake. A birthday cake with "To my work hubby" written in frosting, decorated with a photo of the two of them from the office holiday party. My work hubby. With our husband, right there in the possessive. Not happy birthday or from your team. My work hubby. She saw me standing there, frozen in the doorway with my bag of sandwiches, and her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Oh, Amy, you came too. How nice. Mark, you didn't tell me your real wife was coming. Your real wife. As opposed to what? His work wife. Was she actually saying that out loud now? Was she really that brazen? Mark, oblivious as ever, just laughed. 2 birthday surprises. I'm spoiled. I left the sandwiches on his desk and walked out. I made it to my car before I started shaking. I sat there in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe, trying not to scream. Your real wife. My work hubby. As if this was all some cute joke. As if she wasn't actively, deliberately trying to destroy my marriage while my husband stood there grinning like this was all perfectly normal. I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. But I'm being made to feel crazy. Every time I point out what's happening, I'm told I'm overreacting. Every time I express discomfort, I'm accused of being insecure. Every time I ask for boundaries, I'm told I'm being controlling. Sarah has successfully positioned herself as the good guy in this story. She's the fun coworker, the supportive friend, the person who appreciates Mark in ways his uptight, jealous wife doesn't. And Mark has bought into that narrative completely. I don't know what to do anymore. Divorce seems extreme. We have 6 years of marriage, 9 years together. We have a new house. We have plans for children and futures and growing old together. I love this man. I love who he was before Sarah, and I keep hoping I'll get that person back. But I'm also exhausted. I'm tired of fighting for my place in my own marriage. I'm tired of being the villain in a story where I'm actually the victim. I'm tired of watching my husband prioritize someone else's feelings, opinions, and presence over mine. Part of me wonders if I should just let it happen. Let Sarah have him. Let her deal with his annoying habit of leaving cabinet doors open and his refusal to make decisions about dinner. Let her be the one who plans his dentist appointments and reminds him to call his mother. Let her discover that the fun, easy dynamic they have at work doesn't translate into the daily grind of actual partnership. But the bigger part of me, the part that's fighting to be heard, knows that this is my marriage. This is my husband. And I shouldn't have to surrender either of them to someone who has no right to them. So here I am, asking strangers on the internet, am I crazy? Is this all in my head? Or is Sarah actually trying to destroy my marriage while everyone, including my husband, pretends not to notice? Because I'm running out of ways to make people see what I see. I'm running out of energy to fight battles that I'm told don't exist. And I'm running out of hope that Mark will ever open his eyes and see what's right in front of him. The woman he married is disappearing, piece by piece, day by day. And his work wife is there to fill the empty space, one coffee order, one birthday cake, one Instagram post at a time. I just want my husband back. Is that too much to ask?